Hello and welcome back to my walkthrough videos of Over the Wire War Games. In this video I'm going to try to complete level 15 of the Natas game. I think I have everything almost set up and ready to go. So I have my browser window open. I have my terminal window open. I'm not in a TMUX session because I'm going to be coding, I believe. And I want to use all this screen real estate to see the code. So I'm not going to open a TMUX session, but I'm going to need to grab my password out of my Natas info file for level 15. Whoops, did that all wrong. So there's my level 15 password. And actually I need to start burp before I keep going. So let me get that started. And you'll notice in my browser, I created a web page that's got links directly to all of the Natas games because I got tired of having to copy and paste the URLs in. So I just created this page so I can just click on them. So let's get burp going. All right. So I want to do a couple of things. Number one, I want to turn intercept off, and number two, you can set burp so that it only tracks your targets. So you can set it up so that your history won't show web pages that you browse to that aren't part of your target. So I want to do that. So I wrote a short script that basically prints these out to a file, and then I can load it up in the file. I can load the file up here in burp. So it's easy. So now my scope should be set. So if I go to proxy, web history, so let's watch, just make sure that's true. If I go to cnn.com, I shouldn't see this show up in burp. But when I go to the Natas site pages, I should see them. So let's see, does this show up? Nope, it's not in the history. Is it showing up in my sitemap? No, so it's not tracking it at all. It will, though, intercept it. So just be aware of that. All right, so we're good to go with burp. Close CNN, but let's make sure that we see Natas 15 in burp. So hang on, let me grab this password. Back over, password in. All right, so we're logged into Natas 15. We should see those hits in our history. All right, we do. Perfect. Okay. All right, so let's dig in. So here we are. Looks like we have a username field. I'm going to try and get through this without viewing the source code. I think this is probably a little bit similar to level 14. I think there's probably SQL injection here. But let's see what happens. I'm going to test 3 scenarios. Number one, I'm going to try username I think exists, which is Natas16, because that's the user we need to get the password for. Then I'm going to try username I think doesn't exist, see what happens with that. And then I'm going to try SQL injection. And so I'm going to try and generate a database error with SQL injection and see what happens with that. So those are the first 3 cases I'm going to test. So I think we have username Natas16 should exist. Yep. I'm going to go back and let's try username we think doesn't exist. User does not exist. And then we know from, let's try just a single quote. User doesn't exist. All right, hang on. So next we're going to try a little SQL injection, see what happens. So that didn't work, and then but what we know from level 14 is that it takes a double quote to create SQL injection with the code that they're using in this war game. Let's try that. Error in the query. So it doesn't tell us anything about the database in use. We'd probably have to look at the code to see that. But I'm going to assume that that means we have SQL injection. So let's see if we can get it to give us records from the database. So I use this or A equals A because a lot of web application firewalls and a lot of code that actually developers write will use where 1 equals 1. You can change this up like where cat equals cat. So to try to bypass those filters. All right, so the user exists, but it doesn't give us anything more. So what we're working with here is definite SQL injection, right? But we can't really find anything out, which is sort of our standard SQL injection from the user interface. So I'm going to put together a Python script that's going to do, let me show you. Number one, we know the username is Natas16, right? And we know that this query is searching for username. And if this is anything like level 14, we can say password like, so let's just try that. So that should also return user exists, right? Because password is like something. The percent sign means any character, and any character or string of characters. So here we're going to be saying select star from users where username is Natas16 and password like anything. So we believe this should return true. Yep, user exists. But let's try this. Let's put an A in here. User doesn't exist. So what have I just done? I've checked to see if the first character of the password is A. What this tells me is that I could write a script that would, for every character in the password, test for, let's see what our character set is. So we know that our passwords are made up of alphanumeric characters. The alpha characters are A through Z, upper and lower case, and the numeric characters appear to be, I see a 0 here, right here, a 2. So I'm going to assume, and a 9, that they're 0 through 9, basically. So each position in my password could either be A through Z lowercase, A through Z uppercase, or 0 through 9 numeric. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a Python script that will test every position and find the character that goes into that position. So between last week and this video, I wrote a script that allows me to very quickly create sort of a skeleton script that will attack a URL. And I just have to fill in how to do that attack. So I'm going to run that script. Create attack.py. It takes a parameter for URL, and in this case, we want this guy. So in my creation script, the protocol is separate from the URL. And in fact, I don't think I need index dot. Well, we'll leave it. We might need that. That may be necessary. So the protocol is HTTP, and I know that I have authorization data, an authorization header, so I want to grab that, put that in the script. I think that's it. So what do I want to call my newly created script? 15.py. I'm going to make the code for create attack.py available to everyone so you can see what it does. I'm not going to walk through it right now, but let's see if this gives me what I need. No. Oh, I should take that index.php out. Probably need to fix the script so it allows for that sort of thing, for an actual page. Okay, So now let's look at 15.py. So let's walk through what we're doing here. So the first thing that we're doing is we are setting the protocol and the URL and the port. And then we're building the URL with the port and the protocol. So first URL equals protocol : / URL. If port's there, tack it on the end. This post data is going to change. I need a username field, and that's it. So take this out. And then set up my headers based on the data from create attack.py. So cookie authorization, if a cookie exists, set the cookie. If authorization exists, set the authorization header. And let's make sure the connection works. So let's see. So we create the request with the URL, the data, which is our post data, and the headers, which we saw above, and then make the request and get the response. I'm setting a timeout for 3 seconds. Then I'm checking, so I'm trying that. If it fails on a timeout, I'm printing the URL that the timeout occurred on and exiting. If it fails for any other reason, I'm printing the URL that failed and the error from the exception. And then I'm also exiting the script. So this is just making sure the connection works. I'm going to run this momentarily so we can see that. Then I'm grabbing the contents from the response. So response.read, get the contents, and contents.find string to search for. So we're going to want this to say essentially user exists ultimately, right? So find returns an index, so it looks for that text within the contents and returns the location in the text, the location in the response where the text exists. So if it's greater than -1, we can assume that the content was found. All right, and then I'm going to need to fill in here the attack, right? So we'll get to that in a minute. Let me run this and make sure that I can connect to the Natas site, that I got it all set up right. Yep, beautiful. Okay, so now what do I want to do? Well, I want to loop over every character in the password field. So let's do for I in range, and let's see, actually I think it's 32 characters. So 1 through 33. And then within that, I want to loop over. Let me show you. So at the top here, I'm importing ASCII, the ASCII lowercase character set and the ASCII uppercase character set. So I'm going to loop over each of those. So for C in ASCII lowercase, and then for C in ASCII uppercase. And I want to also, for C in range, I want to loop over 0 through 9. So I want to go from 0 to 10. So it's inclusive at the front and exclusive at the end. So it'll include 0, but when it hits 10, it stops. It doesn't go through the loop. So 9 will be the last character it gets, the last digit it gets. So what do I want to do for each of these iterations? I'm going to need I think I need to define a function up here. Let's see, verify character, let's call it. I don't know what it's going to take yet, but this is going to, if it finds the character, return true. And if it does not, then we'll return false. I'm going to flesh this out in a minute. Well, actually, let me do it now. So I'm going to build the username. So I'm going to build the value. I'm going to build this, right? So I'm going to build the value that I'm passing in as username. So let's call this username equals, and let's just put that in here for now. So we're Natas 16 and password like. We want to put our character in here. I'm going to string C that. Actually not. I'm just going to call it a C. I'll explain that in a second. And I think that's it. So we get the username, value, and we want to put it in. Where did my post data go? Put it in here. Username, value. So take this out and put username here. So now I've set my post data. So the field is username and the value is this username here. Then I want to see what happens, right? So take, I'm not going to do it that way. 27 to 14. Yeah. And get this indent right. With Python, you have to make sure you're indenting things correctly. Is that all right? That'll stay outside. All right. So we've got here. Setting our username, we're putting in the post data, we are building our request with the URL. I need to global all this stuff, right? I need to global my URL, my headers. That's it. The post data is in here. Boom. Then I'm making the request, getting the response back, checking for timeout, checking for other exceptions, and then getting the contents. I don't need these comments, it's just in the way. So grabbing the contents from the response and then checking if user exists is in there, printing content found. Actually, I want to print the character. I want to print the, so here, yeah, I need another variable. I need password, and we're going to set it to an empty string to start with, and then within here, we're going to say password plus equals the character, because that's, which means we also need it here, right? So password plus character. I'm going to talk through this once I get it fleshed out. So characters found. All right, so we're doing here global, pulling in the variables we need. I need this to get a character. Pulling in the variables we need, and I'm building my username value. Right now, the first time we're coming through here, password is empty, so it's just where password like the character we passed in, and then anything following it. And if that actually returns content that says user exists, we know that our first character and password is the character passed in. So we're going to put it in the password variable as the first character. And then we're going to return true. I'm actually going to print out password here so we can watch it build as we go. And return true. Character found, return true. Character not found, returns false. All right, so I think that's it for this function. Highly possible there's a typo or I've missed some logic in here somewhere, so we'll come back. I'm sure we'll see it when we run the script. So let's get down here. So I want to go through every character in the lowercase set first, and if verify character, C, break. We don't want to keep going. If we find it here, we want to break out. But we want to do that for the uppercase characters, and we want to do, why do I have that in here twice? Don't need it twice. Oh, because I copied and pasted too many lines. And then here, C in range. So in this case, we want to use the string function because this is going to be an integer, and up here where we concatenate right there, that if C is an integer here, this will throw an error. This will be a problem. So we have to pass it in as a string character, and then we break out of it. So, but we also want to continue through this loop. So if we find this character here and we break out of this for loop, we don't want to continue down here. We want to say, okay, continue, move on to the next iteration of this for loop. So how do we do that? We're going to use continue, but I'll tell you what. So I'm going to do something old school. I'm going to say char found equals false. And then if it is actually found, we'll set it to true. Oops. And then we'll check it outside the loop. If char found, then continue. And we'll put this after every. There's definitely a better way to do this. I'm just not thinking of it right now. And we don't need to continue here because we're already at the end. It will continue. So we'll just put in there twice. So I think that's it. I need to print the URL. I don't need that. I think that's it. So we come into to main. Why is this here? I copied and pasted stuff. Did not need to be copied and pasted. Glad I scrolled down. All right, so we come into main. We loop over each character position in the password. We set character found to default, and we start going through the lowercase characters. Now I'm going to pass in I. Oops. Because I'm going to want to print that out. So come in, we start going through the ASCII lowercase characters. We check if that character is verified for this position. We set character found to true and break out of it, and then continue here into the next iteration of loop. If it's never found, then char found never becomes true. We get down into the uppercase loop. Same thing happens, but we want this set. And ditto here for char found and range. Just break out of that. All right. So, and then let me just see. Verify character function. I just added. All right. So then we are setting our username correctly here, and we are creating our post data object. Creating our request with the URL, the post data, and the headers, which is just the authorization header. We're making our request, getting our response, checking for a timeout error, checking for any other errors, getting the contents out of the response, checking the contents for the text find users. If it exists, then we have verified that this character is the next character in the password. Print the password and return true. I'm also here going to print I think that's all I need. So I want to watch as this rolls. So let's see how this does. Cross your fingers, no typos. Python 15. No typos, at least not obvious ones yet. So we're looping through. Oh, oh, we found a W-A-I-H. So I'm noticing something here. I'm going to stop. I'm going to scroll back up. So this is a little bit unusual based on what we know about the password values that we've collected so far in this war game. These are all lowercase, so I'm doing something wrong. And I know what it is, I just forgot. So let me open up this again. Let me Google MySQL, binary, case sensitive. So what's happening is that by default, MySQL does a case insensitive search in your where clause. So when I'm searching for the letter A, lowercase, it's actually returning true if the character is an uppercase A or a lowercase a, right? And this operator, binary, uh, changes the search so that instead of doing a character-to-character comparison, it's doing a byte by byte comparison. So it's looking literally at the bits. So it's only going to return the characters that match the binary representation. In other words, it is case sensitive. So it will only match a lowercase a to a lowercase a and an uppercase a to an uppercase a. But let me show you this. So this guy's done a demo here. Select name from users where name like lowercase t, %. So it's returning, you'll see uppercase test, lowercase test. And down here he adds the binary operator to the same query, and it only returns where lowercase t. So I need to add that operator to my query. Like that should change things, I think. Just realized that as it was running. So let's see how this goes. And I'm going to pause this. I'm going to grab the first 4 or 5 characters and then pause it while it finishes, and then I'll come back to the video so we can watch, so we can make sure that it worked. The password that we get puts us into Natas 16. All right, so yeah, so we've got a uppercase W, yep, right there. Lowercase a, uppercase W, lowercase I, upper W, lower a, upper I. Yep, H. All right, I'm gonna pause. I'm gonna pause the video and come back when it's gone through all 32 characters. So hold tight. All right, so we're wrapped. Oh, it just finished. Okay, awesome. So I think this is our password to Natas 16. Script finished. It just took a few more minutes. I probably could have kept the video running, but I didn't want to waste your time. So let's go to Natas 16 and see if that password works. Natas 16, pop the password in, and there we go. So that was blind SQL injection with a Python script. I will make that code available. So I'll make available the create attack Python script and the script that the 15.py script. So you can see, you can take a look at it at your leisure and see exactly what I did in there. There's some things I probably did that could be done better. Definitely feel free to let me know if you have recommendations. And with that, I will wrap up level 15 and see you at level 16. Thank you all.